Nells Coxman earns his living operating a snowplow. After a full day of clearing roads, he returns home, where he shares a quiet, comfortable life with his wife, Grace. Their son, Kyle, is there as well.
Is it okay if I use your car? I really need to get to work.
Sure.
Yeah?
Once Kyle heads out, Nells and Grace sit down for dinner. Grace tells him he'll need to speak at the event that evening. Nells tries to avoid it, but Grace reassures him that the townspeople simply want to show their appreciation. It won't be a short one, though. After preparing, Nells and Grace attend the ceremony where he is honored for his service to the community. When he accepts the award, Nells steps up to address the audience.
Very honored to be named Kehoe Citizen of the Year.
At the same time, Kyle is on duty at the airport with his co-worker Dante. Out of nowhere, a gang storms in and ambushes them. The attackers grab both men, assaulting them viciously before injecting Kyle with a dose that ends his life. Horrified, Dante struggles desperately against his bindings and ultimately manages to slip away into the darkness. Somewhere else, a young boy refuses to attend school. His father, Viking, the leader of a criminal syndicate, shows up and questions him, wondering if Tim, the bully, is the reason. Viking then delivers a harsh lecture about defending himself, ordering Ryan to retaliate. Ryan resists, clearly unwilling to be violent, but Viking refuses to accept his reluctance. Everything you'll ever need is written in that book. Meanwhile, the kidnappers place Kyle's lifeless body on a chair, putting sunglasses on him. He remains completely unconscious. Not long after, Nells is delivered heartbreaking news. Kyle is gone. At the morgue, a detective states that the death seems caused by a lethal injection, showing traces of opium in Kyle's system. Nells is shattered. Unable to accept the explanation, he knows his son and firmly states Kyle would never touch drugs. The detective brushes off his objections, insisting the findings speak for themselves. Kyle's funeral follows soon after. Overwhelmed by grief, Nells starts drinking heavily, unable to face the loss. Eventually, he picks up his hunting rifle, considering ending his own life, convinced he has nothing left. Unseen by Nells, Dante has been hiding in the garage, silently watching. As Nells prepares to pull the trigger, he hears a noise. Dante steps out, shaking, exhausted, his clothes torn and skin pale. He has been hiding ever since the attack. With great effort, Dante explains that Kyle knew nothing about the situation, though he did know the timing of a cocaine shipment. He begins naming people, leaving Nells increasingly confused. Dante demands money, insisting that if anyone finds him, his life won't end well. Nells seizes Dante by the collar, slamming him against the wall, forcing him to reveal who was behind everything. Dante insists he doesn't know everyone involved, but drops a single name, Speedo. Nells asks where he can locate him. Resolute, Nells goes to a bar, scanning quietly until he spots Speedo. He trails him to an elevator and confirms his identity by asking directly. Realizing he's being followed, Speedo threatens Nells, warning him that getting involved would bring regret. Nells remains unshaken and continues pressing him for information about his son. Speedo denies all knowledge, but Nells loses his temper and assaults him. Continuing the interrogation, gasping for air, Speedo reluctantly mentions another name.
Taking orders from who? Limbo?
Claiming he is the one giving orders. After extracting the key information, Nells kills him to prevent any warning from reaching others. He then removes the body and disposes of it in a nearby river. Returning home, Nells finds Grace sitting silently. He asks if she won't question where he's been, but Grace remains quiet. Meanwhile, Viking receives news that Speedo has disappeared without a trace, and Ryan overhears it, making Viking furious.
Who's Speedo?
Viking dismisses it, saying he is merely one of his employees. Spotting a cookie alongside Ryan's lunch, Viking asks who packed it
Baking soda?
and tosses it out the window. He then reassures Ryan that he has nothing to do with Speedo's disappearance. Elsewhere, 2 police officers patrol the streets and notice some kids smoking outside. Kim exits the vehicle to confront them, since public smoking is illegal. Her partner advises that to survive and advance in KO law enforcement, she must understand and uphold the values.
Folks come here to ski, have sex, and get high.
Later that night, unable to sleep, Nells retreats to his garage. The following day, Nells tracks down Limbo, the man mentioned by Speedo. He finds him at a bridal shop, presenting wedding gowns.
All right. How can I help you, boss?
I'm looking for a tux.
Limbo asks about the bride, and Nells pauses before explaining that he and his wife plan to renew their vows. When Limbo moves to take measurements, he suddenly draws a gun and fires. He confronts Limbo, demanding the truth about Kyle's death. Limbo refuses to answer, and even after Nells presses him violently, he reveals very little. The man only mentions someone sneaking cocaine through the airport where Kyle worked. Enraged, the father ends the man's life and disposes of the body in the same waterfall where Speedo had been left. Back at the house, Grace tries to reconnect, asking simple questions about her son's hobbies and routines, hoping to remember him together, but Nells cannot find the words. His silence only heightens her frustration. Meanwhile, Viking is furious over losing his gym bag. He hands his ex-wife Aya a strict diet plan for Ryan.
Tell me this is a joke.
Nope, that's Ryan's new diet, and you're gonna follow it to the letter.
Aya proposes a new schedule, wanting Ryan for 10 days with her and 4 with Viking. He refuses, insisting on 14 days with him and none with her. A moment later, Mustang enters and informs Viking that Limbo has vanished. Viking grows restless and furious, shouting at his men to find whoever is behind these disappearances as Ryan and Mustang watch from the house. Undeterred, Nells quietly pursues his revenge. He intercepts another of Viking's associates, forces out the scant information he knows, and kills him. Among the man's belongings, he discovers the drugs being transported. The body is again dumped into the same waterfall. Returning home, Nells finds the house empty. Grace has packed and left a note behind. Sitting on his bed with the note in hand, he feels broken and alone. Seeking answers, he visits his brother Brock, a man with deep ties to the criminal underworld. Nells explains Kyle's death. Brock lets him in, though his wife, suspecting criminal activity, behaves coldly. After consulting his contacts, Brock returns with answers. Dante had stolen gold from Viking's operation, and Kyle was simply in the wrong place at the wrong time, resulting in his death.
Gonna kill him, Brock.
Nells tells Brock that he eliminated 3 of Viking's men, disposing of them in the waterfall. He inquires where Viking might be, but Brock has no information. Meanwhile, Viking panics. 3 of his men have vanished, and he suspects White Bull. Ignoring reason, he begins planning a counterattack. Once allies with White Bull, Viking's paranoia now threatens their fragile truce. Under Viking's orders, his men attack White Bull, capturing one of his men and subjecting him to brutal interrogation. The captive remains silent despite the pain, infuriating Viking, who kills him and displays the body publicly. White Bull witnesses this. Shockingly, the man Viking killed turns out to be White Bull's son on his first run. One of White Bull's men steps forward, asking what they should do. White Bull merely nods and walks away. Detective Kim takes charge of the investigation, noticing the pattern and fearing that a full-scale gang war is about to erupt. She uncovers more details about the drug operations in Kehoe and Viking's activities. She also learns that the person found dead outside is White Bull's own son. Although she shares her concerns with her partner, he seems oblivious. Meanwhile, the man seeking revenge continues to search for ways to take down Viking. Brock warns that the task cannot be done alone and reveals Viking's real name, Trevor. He advises hiring a professional hitman, recommending a man called Eskimo, who will complete the job for a fee. Meanwhile, White Bull's son's funeral takes place. The next day, Nells arranges to meet Eskimo, picking him up from the train station and taking him to a motel, handing over half the payment up front. Eskimo grows wary and briefly threatens Nells, suspecting he might be a cop, but he convinces him otherwise, and Eskimo accepts the money. Instead of keeping the assignment secret, Eskimo goes to Viking, claiming a hit was ordered and offering to reveal the client's identity for an extra payment. Viking initially assumes White Bull is behind it, but Eskimo corrects him. Viking pays Eskimo.
Who wants me dead? Guy's name is Coxman.
Coxman? Who is a Coxman on Dad's payroll, right?
Ring ding, it's Wingman.
He assumes it's Brock Coxman, not the seeker of revenge. Having worked with Brock years ago, Viking believes the man has betrayed him. Before leaving, Viking questions Eskimo's ethics, pointing out that he broke a previous agreement by making another deal with him instead. Mustang approaches Eskimo, telling him to step aside, and they execute him. To dispose of the body, Mustang drives away with Dexter in a car, discussing their vacation plans. The young man riding with him is his secret lover. Meanwhile, the Avenger continues hunting for clues about the unfolding events. Viking's men trace the name to Brock's residence. Viking arrives and confronts Brock, who quickly realizes the misunderstanding. Accused of killing Viking's men and plotting against him, Brock, aware of his limited time due to cancer, chooses to protect his brother. He explains that his actions were revenge, claiming Viking's father once took his woman and that he is settling an old score. Viking laughs at the tale, but shows no mercy, executing Brock and ordering his men to dispose of the body. A funeral is held for Brock. Elsewhere, White Bull grieves deeply for his fallen son. During the funeral, he reminds his followers of the old pact he once made with Viking's father, a promise to keep peace and never interfere with each other's business. With his child gone, that agreement is shattered, and his sorrow hardens into a vow for revenge. He declares that a life must be repaid with another, and that Viking's child will pay the price. Meanwhile, Detective Kim keeps digging into Viking's activities. When she tells her partner that 3 of his men have been killed, he cannot even recall who Viking is. At the same time, the grieving father continues tracking Viking. Through quiet surveillance, he notices Viking's young son, Ryan, and later spots Viking himself. Elsewhere, Viking gathers his men to discuss how to avoid a war with White Bull. Mustang's secret lover, Dexter, suggests apologizing and making peace. Enraged, Viking shoots Dexter before Mustang and orders his men to deliver the body part to White Bull as a message, claiming he was responsible. White Bull's men continue watching Ryan. They soon figure out his routine. 1 week with his mother, then 1 with his father. Kim keeps collecting intel from her ex in Denver. Later, she visits Nells and says she wants to discuss his son. She tells him she doesn't believe the boy was an addict and asks for details, but he refuses to talk. Viking's courier then delivers the message along with a fabricated story to White Bull, hoping it will stop the conflict. But White Bull immediately sees through the lie.
You showed a lot of guts coming here alone.
He sends his men to hunt down Viking's child. Meanwhile, Nells arrives at Ryan's school and calmly approaches the boy, pretending to be someone sent by his father. Ryan hesitates, but the man's gentle tone wins his trust, and the boy enters the car, unaware of the danger around him. As they drive off, White Bull's gunmen notice them, triggering a chase, but the driver uses the terrain and back roads to shake them off, escaping with the child.
Seatbelt.
Ryan's mother storms into Viking's home, angry that he took Ryan during her scheduled week. Viking tries to hit her, but she dodges and strikes back. Fighting through the pain, he admits Ryan isn't with him. White Bull's crew continues their vengeance, tracking down another member of Viking's gang at a roadside motel and killing him as a warning. Back home, Viking tells Aya he will bring Ryan back safely. She warns that if Ryan doesn't return within 24 hours, she will go to the police. White Bull himself travels to a resort often visited by Viking, planning to watch and strike when the time is right. Nells brings Ryan to his secluded home in the mountains. He treats the boy gently, offering food and assuring him that he's safe. When Ryan asks who else lives there, Nells quietly says, "No one." Later, he prepares a simple lunch and gives Ryan Kyle's old bedroom. He tells him it once belonged to his son who is no longer alive, and that he can stay there for the night. As they settle in, Ryan asks for a bedtime story. Nells agrees and tells him one. Before the boy falls asleep, Nells promises to show him the snowplow in the morning. Ryan, getting the care that he doesn't get from his father, grew fond of Nells. At the resort, White Bull lingers in silence, thinking of his son and the revenge that now consumes him. White Bull still mourning, his son gets frustrated that his men still didn't find Ryan. At the same time, Viking questions the school janitor and finally learns what happened to Ryan. The janitor nervously admits that a man named Coxman took the boy. The name makes everything clear to Viking. He has a relative. He realizes he killed the wrong people and that Nells is behind all the chaos. Furious, he prepares to hunt him down. Nells, meanwhile, decides to confront Viking directly. He calls him and says he has Ryan. He warns Viking to come alone if he wants to see his son alive. Viking agrees, but secretly gathers his men and heads to Nells' home. They break in and search every corner, but Nells is nowhere to be found. While they search, Nells is far away, taking Ryan for a quiet ride through the snow-covered roads on his snowplow. The boy laughs and watches the machine work, unaware of the danger. Kim and her partner pull them over and ask about Ryan. Nells calmly says the boy is his nephew. The officer mentions seeing several cars heading towards Nells's property. Hearing this, Nells immediately realizes Viking didn't come alone. His house is already surrounded. Inside the house, Viking searches every room until he notices signs of the snowplow outside. Realizing Nells might be nearby, he heads out into the cold. Mustang, also seeking revenge for his lover Dexter, secretly calls White Bull to report Viking's exact location. Out on the snowfield, Nells waits with his rifle ready to end it. As Viking's car appears, Nells takes aim just before he fires. Ryan speaks up, distracting him. Nells lowers the gun, takes the boy back to the cabin and locks him inside, telling him not to move until he returns. Then he steps back out into the snow. Nells hides under a car, but Viking's men ambush him, forcing him into their vehicle and bringing him before Viking. Viking punches and demands to know where his son is. Nells tells him he doesn't deserve his son. Soon, White Bull's convoy arrives. Gunfire explodes from both sides, turning the quiet mountainside into chaos. The fight is brutal and fast. One by one, both gangs fall until only Viking and White Bull remain standing. Viking tries to escape in his car, but Nells uses a heavy log to stop it. As the car stops, White Bull takes the final shot. Viking collapses. Nells climbs into his truck and drives away. White Bull climbs into the truck with a gun. Police arrive at the crime scene and Kim looks at the bodies in shock. Officer Gip finds Viking on the verge of death. He tells Gip to send a message to his wife, but before he could tell him the message, he dies. Nells drives the White Bull through the snow. White Bull, realizing Nells is not the enemy, puts his gun away. Sometimes justice isn't served by the law, but by those who refuse to stay silent. What would you do in Nells's place?